winning the FA Cup would also mean that we would be in an extremely select group of teams that have won every domestic trophy. So hello and welcome to episode 6 of the First for LCFC podcast. My name's Jamie Thorpe and I'm delighted that we've got a full complement again as I'm joined by both the First for LCFC admins, Chris and Ed. How are you doing, guys?
All good.
Hey.
Very good.
Ed, very glad to have you back. It was a bit sad last week, although we did have an excellent stand-in from Newcastle. But once again, we've got another fairly eventful Leicester game to review. It is never boring being a Leicester fan. As the Foxes travel to Anfield, and if not for some late drama, would have come away with a hard-earned point. And I suppose everyone's talked the penalty decision to death, but that's probably where we're going to have to start. Chris, penalty, yes or no, firstly?
Yeah, it's a penalty, isn't it? I mean, the only thing that's dubious about it is the way in which he goes down. You don't take an extra step and then go down. But, I mean, ultimately, there's contact. I mean, it's very delicate. And, 10, 15 years ago, players wouldn't have been going down. But I'm sure we're all bored to death of that conversation. There's contact. If we got that in the last minute and it didn't get awarded, we'd be moaning. Yes, I don't know if there's an element of it being like a big club and all. I don't buy into all these things like the FA want Liverpool to win the league. I think that's a load of bollocks, to be fair. But, I mean, there's contact. I'm questioning how he goes down, but it is a penalty, unfortunately, for me.
Ed, do you agree with that?
Well, I think the same thing as Chris says, really. The best way to judge it is if that happened to us in the other way, how would we feel if it hadn't been given? It's not exactly one of those where you're 100% set, like that's an awful challenge. It's definitely a pen, but there is contact in the box. They did have VAR available to check it, and if after that they're still given it, yes, soft, but you can't really complain.
Well, that's the thing with VAR, though, isn't it? It has to be a clear and obvious error. So, ultimately, he has touched him. I think if we're going to rewind it a bit further, there's nothing against Mark Albrighton, he puts a shift in every time, but ultimately there was a bit of confusion with there, and Schmeichel wasn't there. Maybe if he just literally hoofs it anywhere other than trying to dribble out a play or whatever he's trying
to put it out for a corner.
Literally anything, to be honest. So, obviously, it's not criticism, but there was that confusion, maybe a bit of better communication. But, the penalty is probably the right decision. But it's a bit shocking how, well, it's not shocking. Ultimately, all fans are like this. But, I've seen some Fox's fan pages, absolutely ridiculing the decision. I mean, it's a penalty. I guess it's, obviously, we've got a right to feel a bit hard done by, but... I don't think there's a discussion there, really.
I think when you add the fact, probably is a pen, but it's not like a mega obvious, horrendous challenge, added on to the fact it was last minute in a game that, against a big team in the league and we could have got a point, then those mixed emotions do sort of make the reactions spiral out a little bit.
Playing a bit of devil's advocate with it. Because my issue with it is I don't think there's enough contact to impede the player. If that tackle happens in the middle of the pitch earlier on in the game, do you think he gives a foul?
He doesn't go down if it's in the middle of the pitch.
But that's my point. You've hit the nail on the head. He's gone down because he's felt contact, not because the contact has made him go down.
I think it's just a sign of the game, though, isn't it, Jamie? I think it's... Ultimately, we've seen people like James Maddison literally try and dive last season. Some clubs might have more of a reputation for it than others, but the thing is, we've got VAR now, and it ultimately wasn't a dive. I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but I think if a player literally gets even touched, they feel like there's a right to go down, and that's where VAR needs to be balanced in the way of decisions like handball. There's a lot more. It's not evenly balanced out in terms of defensive and attacking sort of balance. So, it's a tricky one. But, for me, if there's contact, you're going down. If it's awarded to us in the last minute or the first minute, we want that penalty, and it's the same for Liverpool.
Can I ask a question here? Because I've got it in front of me, the tackle right now. And it really is, Yeah, he stood on his foot, didn't he? But it's soft. Like, is there a similar rule in the Premier League as there is in cricket, whereby, you know, if the umpire, like for an LBW, and it's only just clipping the stumps, but the umpire says not out, then you give the cricket umpire the benefit of the doubt and you wouldn't actually overturn the decision. Is that the same in football? So, like, if the ref didn't give this as a penalty and it went to VAR and they saw exactly the same,
you're right.
Would VAR side with the ref and say it's not clear enough to overturn? Or
right. That's what Chris alluded to earlier with the clear and obvious. It has to be a glaring error in order for VAR to overturn the decision the ref has made.
Okay.
I just don't think there's. I don't know, because in the Champions League, I think they sort of show you who the VAR officials are. But they don't do that in the Premier League, and I think VAR is almost a cop out. Like, it's easy for them not to overturn anything. I mean, there's that statistic going around that only like X amount of decisions have actually been overturned. So, I mean, it would have been interesting if the ref didn't give it, because then we'd see if there is like some sort of bias or like pressure to award penalties at bigger clubs or grounds. I don't believe it myself, but I mean, that would have really put VAR to the test, to be fair. I mean, me personally, I don't think they would have given that had the ref not given it, but I guess there's no way we're going to find out. But on a side note, I just thought of this earlier. Like, we've dropped points to Man United and Liverpool, both down to penalties. I mean, it's a bit of a... It's not really related to this discussion, but it's fine margins, isn't it, at the moment for us?
Yeah. I mean, final word on the penalty for me, because I know I got into my Twitter mentions exploded over the weekend because I was fairly outspoken about it. My issue is, like you said, Chris, is more with the state of the game, that a player, like you said, feels even the faintest of touches and goes down. And I think I would personally, I would be happy that we got the 3 points, but if that happened the other way around, but I wouldn't be happy that it happened in that manner, if I'm honest. But that's individuals, isn't it? But yeah, so like you said though, we there are positives that we can take from the game. I mean, going to Anfield is not an easy place to go, is it? So Liverpool are now on a run of 17 straight wins, second best run ever, and they've been unbeaten at home in 44 league games, which is the highest in Europe's top 5 leagues. But I mean, from the performance though, Chris, we stifled them. We remained calm, composed in front of a world-class attack. Surely that bodes well, doesn't it?
I think I was messaging you at the time of the game. I think it's just such a contrast in how we would have potentially folded or gone a couple of goals down in the past. I mean, it's character. You associate it with Brendan Rodgers almost as a joke now. But in terms of, like, we go 1-0 down and it's just like, let's play on like it's 0-0. Like, ultimately, we can come away with a draw here. And the fact is, like, obviously the lads would have watched the game against Salzburg in the week previous, and like Liverpool were 3-0 up. As soon as they concede a goal, that crowd turns. Well, it doesn't turn. It goes a lot more quiet, and that's exactly what happened here. It's unfortunate. It's sort of gut wrenching to lose in that sense, but you know, we kept playing that game. Looking at possession stats, you know, it's almost 50-50. It's, you know, our heads didn't drop, and I think that's something that Brendan's, you know, we've definitely got rid of that negative mindset that maybe Puel instilled in the players, or something that was going around in the media upon his sort of departure. But in terms of that character, we're definitely showing it, and I think yes, there's plenty of promising signs to take from it.
I mean, in terms of the overall performance though, Ed, I know statistically it didn't make for the best reading, but as Liverpool dominated that particular board, but we've got to be taking heart from going there and pushing them so close, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, statistically, well, Chris touched on the possession. Well, that was pretty even, which is a good sign, because many teams go to Anfield and don't see a great deal of the ball at times and are just played off the park. And yes, whilst Liverpool did have near enough every single shot in the match, it shows sort of our strength, our solidity, that we didn't just let them run all over us and completely dominate and stick 2, 3, 4 past us. They won with a dubious penalty in the very last minute because of perhaps a poor communication in defence. You know, there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed at this. Better teams will go to Anfield this season and lose both in Europe and in the league. So there's absolutely nothing, no reason to be downhearted.
No, and I think the overall performance was good, as you both alluded to. One, there was obviously, aside from a contentious penalty decision, there's been a huge cloud cast over the game, up with some horrendous abuse aimed at Hamza Choudhury on social media following being called out for the tackle on Salah by Jurgen Klopp. I'm not saying this was Klopp's intention at all, by the way. But what did you both make of the tackle itself? Was it deserving of having such a media spotlight on it?
Okay, well, first of all, any player, well, especially Choudhury, he's been put on with like 5 minutes to go, I think, to do a job to basically defend that draw. Any player is going to commit a cynical foul there. It's part of the game. His execution was honking. There's no, he didn't go into that. I mean, I don't know him personally. He might be from Loughborough, but I don't know him personally. But there's no way he plans on literally trapping Salah's leg under his shin. I mean, that's reckless play. There's obviously no beef between the two players. He just wants to clip his ankles and bring him down. The way it happened, it is pretty bad. It could have, he could have twisted his ankle, etc. But the main thing is there is no damage to Salah. The media's made a massive storm of it. Alexander Arnold's literally stood down the back of Tielemans' calves. I don't see Sky Sports reporting Tielemans has made a full recovery for international duty. Like, it's a non-story. It's a cynical foul. It's part of the game. Let's move on with it now.
That's the thing that I found quite surprising, Ed. I don't know if you agree, is that Klopp has chosen to highlight it as he did, or do you think that is simply him trying to deflect away from having to answer questions about Mane dying?
Yeah, I think it's one. It could be any number of things. It could be just his wanting to be super protective over one of his star players, and he wants refs to be aware of that. He draws tackles like this, so maybe in future games they're a bit stricter and they've got an eye out for things like this. But like Chris said, personally, I thought it was a nasty challenge. Don't get me wrong, but I say every game you watch, there's always, like one team trying to counter or break away from the other. And, the defensive side, somebody just runs back and snaps their attacking play. They know they're not going to get the ball, but they just want to halt the attack. It's not a nice tackle. It's actually it's quite nasty when you think about it, and he's never going to get the ball, but you see it every week. So it is interesting how it has blown up and such a big fuss has been made about it.
I mean, it's an interesting point you make there in terms of like Klopp's trying to get in the ref's head to protect his players, but I think ultimately what's going to happen here is that the refs are going to be looking out for Choudhury now. Ultimately, let's face it, if he was any closer to Salah, all it takes is a tug of his shirt. He's not going to go flying through the back of him. But yeah, I think that Choudhury is a walking red card, and as a betting man, you're pretty safe to put money on him getting sent off this season. But I think he's definitely going to be on the ref radar a lot more now.
I hope that he can just learn to use his aggression slightly more intelligently. I don't think he's a malicious player. He's not like the old Gattusos of this world, who I think at times genuinely did set out to hurt people. But he's a naturally aggressive player. But you don't want to coach out of him altogether, do you?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like you mentioned intelligence. I mean, it's the execution is awful, but that isn't what he did was intelligent. He's clearly been told by Rodgers, "You're breaking play up in the middle of the field here." Like, if I don't know, again, like that attack unfolds, what was it, 3-on-3 potentially? They could have scored on the counter. Like, if he didn't commit that foul, he'd have been kicking himself that night, thinking, "Why didn't I do that?" I'm 99% sure he just wants to clip his heels, but it's a fair distance, and he has gone in recklessly. But and the other discussion is, should that been a red card? I think by the letter of the law, there's an argument for and against, because ultimately he wasn't the last man. It wasn't a goal scoring opportunity, but also it is dangerous, and both his feet have left the grass, haven't they?
I personally think the refs got it right in that it was cynical. It was a professional foul, as they said, but I don't think it was dangerous enough for a red. Is my view.
Yeah, especially in real time, absolutely. I think obviously when they slow stuff down, it always looks worse. There's no way the ref was seeing Salah's leg momentarily trapped under his shins, is there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not as bad as the one that he put in the Euros, as Ed has just sent through. And that was a horrendous challenge, and it was nothing like that. Was it?
I mean, also it's in terms of Salah, maybe why Klopp's so het up about it. Remember what Ramos did to him? What was it? Was it the semi-finals?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that again. Ramos is a dirty. Well, you'd say he's got years of experience doing that. But again, I don't think he literally set out to dislocate his shoulder. But I mean, ultimately, it's a professional foul. Yeah.
But Ramos is a professional shithouse. There's just no way around.
Dirty man.
He is, isn't he? Okay, so we'll try and end our Liverpool review on a positive. Jose Perez, we spoke about the need to retain patience with him. He came on in the second half, and he played more. I think he played more centrally, and he looked so much better. What do you think that this is where we need to start playing him in order to get the most out of him, Ed?
Well, I was going to send it over to Chris. He's been Jose Perez's
I'll jump in.
biggest critic.
I will jump in. No, we shouldn't play him centrally because there's only room for one player down the middle, and that's James Maddison. So tying 2 points into one, there is no use for James Maddison on the wing. There's no influence. As soon as you move him centrally, he wants the ball. He can create. He's got a vision like no one else. You need to be able to predict in the play in that middle. You need to see where the next pass is coming from. Someone like Perez, obviously an intelligent footballer in terms of the way he fed Maddison, but ultimately that was Maddison in the middle, and as soon as we moved him there, he was the one pulling the strings. But absolute hats off to Perez. Like, in terms of his confidence, a lot of people would think that it might be low at the moment, but he's composed on the ball, picks that up, looks up, sees a run from Maddison, perfectly weighted ball, and that should do him the world of good. It's not a goal, but it was a vital assist at that time.
I mean, is there a way that you could play two players centrally? I mean, Rodgers has used a diamond on occasion.
I mean, my point being, yeah, obviously you can fit it in, but would that mean we're probably tinkering with potentially what has been a winning formula so far for us? In that, Jamie, I'm surprised you haven't got some heat map or something to suggest that every time Maddison plays centrally, chance creation, I bet his chances created are 2-3-fold greater than when he's out on that wing.
I think you're probably right. I mean, I agree with you. I much rather see him through the middle. I think the game. I think you text me during the match to say that when we moved him centrally and went more positive, we were a completely different side.
Well, yeah, it could have potentially been pulled off. Like, I was listening to it on Radio Leicester because of obviously it was 3 p.m. And like Ian Stringer was, he was potentially saying they should just bring him off because he's probably carrying a knock. He's not really having an influence. Move him central, and that happens. So, I mean, I listened to the post-match interview again, and I don't think Stringer was too keen on sort of pushing Rodgers for an answer. But why does he start him on the wing? I mean, he started him there against Man United. That's a loss and a lack of chances. But he was the one who had the one golden chance for us early on, forcing that save from De Gea. And obviously another loss here, and he's the one who scored the goal. So I'd like to see us next time we go away to a traditional top six side, just to go and actually play our game from the first minute.
Yes, and I think that is something that we're going to have to look at going forward, isn't it? Is that, do we want to start trying to affect our game more than having, because I think the reason why Maddison is playing on the wing is because we're worried about other teams' strengths, and we played more defensively in the middle and we've shoehorned him in. So that's probably the question for us. I mean, because Ed, this was something that got highlighted earlier this week, in that Leicester's attacking effectiveness, we have an extremely low shot count per game related to other teams, but we take less shots to score our goals. So we're clinical, but we're not creating a huge amount of chances. Is that something that you think is because we've played this sort of change of shape, or is it purely because we've played all the good teams?
Good question. I did see a table on Twitter today actually about expected goals per game, if that means anything to anyone. More useless stats. Like if we scored the amount we were expected to per game based on the chances we created, I think would be like mid-table, maybe even lower mid-table. So we're certainly, at least statistically, sort of performing above the chances we've made. But when you've got players like Vardy on the pitch, you know, having 100 chances a game is perhaps not actually that critical when we've all known over the last few years since he joined, he only really does need 1 or 2 chances and you can be a couple of goals up. So
I think it was in our last pod that me and Jamie were discussing that Vardy's conversion rate is astounding in terms of like you're saying, he only needs 1 chance, and what's he scoring, like 1 in 4 shots on target or something like that, I think we said.
Yeah. I mean, because Ed, I have that table in front of me. You'll be delighted to know.
Fantastic.
If it was purely based on stats, we would be 12th. Brighton would amazingly be 5th. Even more astoundingly, Man United would be 3rd. Tottenham would be 17th, which I would just fill me with so much happiness.
That'll be huge.
But Bournemouth would also be 18th because they are the team that are closest to us in terms of how their attack is ranking. So do you put, like you said, do you put that down purely to us both having clinical strikers in Vardy and Wilson, or is there a deeper problem that we need to start worrying about?
I think for now there isn't anything to worry about. I think we'll learn more about these potential concerns in the next few games, given that we've got a decent run of fixtures now. And these are the games that if we are going to start creating lots of chances each match, it's going to be happening now. So if we're only getting a couple of chances per game in the next few games, then let's see who exactly we've got. Burnley next.
So we've got Burnley, followed by
Burton, Palace, Southampton.
Right. So here's one for both of you two then, because obviously we played Chelsea, Liverpool, United, Tottenham. So we've now got a nice run. So just to confirm, it's Burnley at home, Southampton away, Palace away, Arsenal at home, and Brighton away. From those 5 games, realistically, how many points do you think that we will be taking from them?
I've got a fun way of doing this, Jamie. Why don't you go fixture by fixture and me and Ed will tell you what the result will be? Because I've just forgotten 5 you've literally named there, to be honest.
Hop on Chris's fun bus, everyone. Right. Leicester City, Burnley. Next week on Saturday.
For me, Burnley are a total different proposition at home, as in their home. For me, that's a clean sheet. That's a 2-0 Leicester.
Right, so that's 3 points for you so far.
Making predictions early in this episode. But I'd also say if you're wanting to potentially challenge for the European places this season, then no disrespect to Burnley, but you're wanting to be beating them at home. So I'd say we should be looking to win that as well. So 3 points.
Okay, and then we travel away to Southampton on a Friday night, which I'm sure many Leicester fans are delighted about. Away at Southampton. Next prediction, Chris.
Well, Chelsea have just absolutely undone them, haven't they, to be fair? Before that result, I'd have said that, that in terms of chances and stuff like that, they are a team that will be playing free-flowing football. It's one of those, isn't it? It's Friday night. We should be winning, but there's something about that just. I think we'll dominate, but I don't know. I won't be surprised if a draw there, to be honest.
A draw, okay. Chris, Ed, sorry.
Southampton do nothing for me, so 3 points. You want to know? Here's a fun, useless stat for you.
I love fun, useless stats. Go on.
In the games, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In Southampton's last 6 Premier League games, there's been 4 red cards.
Really?
Yeah. Tottenham got someone sent off. Sheffield United got someone sent off. Southampton got someone sent off against Man U. And Brighton got someone sent off against Southampton.
Is there someone on Southampton's team that everyone hates or something? What's going on?
I purely just have the fixtures. So Aurier got sent off last game.
Oh, that is not a surprise at all.
But yeah, I think we'll be Southampton. Really, they've lost the last 3 games in the league. Wait, 2 of those were at home. They lost 3-1 at home to Bournemouth. So
yeah, I've just looked at their for some reason. Yeah, I've just looked at their form. It is dreadful. I'm going to change mine. That should be a win. But I do think.
Are we allowing this?
Yeah, but I do think Southampton. They all score, but I think we should. I'll go both teams score Leicester to win.
Right, you're allowed one. You're allowed one.
That's totally. I've studied the form now. Forgive
right. So then we travel on a Sunday to our bogey, to who I view as our bogey team in Crystal Palace.
Quite a few teams bogey team this season.
Crystal Palace are frustratingly. Well, they're all. I don't rate them. I mean, look at their team again. No immediate disrespect against them, but I think Roy Hodgson he's obviously got years of experience and he just frustrates his opposition. And
so they are 6th.
I mean, they're doing good. They're overachieving. I think they're probably one of the, not favourites, but they're not predicted to go that high. Low scoring, but I don't know. Again, we should be winning it, but it's one of those places to go. I'd say if we're going to win it, it'd be 1-0. I'll go with another win. Why not?
Okay, I mean their goal difference is 0, so I think that does stack up with what you're saying. Ed, what do you reckon about that game?
I'll go for a win as well.
You are being confident. I like this.
I just don't think. I just
feel refreshed.
No. These lesser teams. Again, no disrespect. We're not Manchester City, but I just feel that if we are going to be dropping points, it will be teams around us. So the traditional top 6, or maybe sides like Everton or West Ham. When you're playing these lower teams, I feel the way we're playing.
Everton are a lot worse this season than Palace are, to be fair.
They are, but I mean, that's what I said. And in form, Everton, these players just, providing we play to the standard we have been this season, and our strikers and attackers are as clinical, and I don't see why we shouldn't be beating teams like Burnley, Southampton or Palace. If you want to get in the top 6 or even a top 4, anything but 3 points against these kind of teams should be considered a real disappointment.
Palace beat Man United.
Wow.
Trafford.
Well, apparently they're not looking to get in the top 4, so Palace lost 4-0 to Spurs.
I'm prodding you it because that hurt you, didn't it? That is Old Trafford, the mecca of English football, is a place where Palace went and won. And your Man United's one of their greatest advocates. So how does that correlate? Because we lost to Man United at Old Trafford.
Yes, but that's not quite how football works, because Palace lost 4-0 away to Spurs. So we beat Spurs.
Football works, but you always remind me that Chelsea lost 4-0 to Man United.
Yeah.
That's not how football works, though.
No, I'm just saying they're obviously not.
Man United now are dreadful.
Nah. They're not informed, don't get me wrong. I don't know what more there is to say there. They're horribly out of form.
I just didn't know if you two were going to have one of you.
I'm not sure they're out of form. And look at their team. Look at
a number of their key players are injured.
Well, yeah, but even who are the key players?
Who are injured?
Well, no, it's a rhetorical question. I understand who plays for Man United. I'm saying, have they got such thing as a key player?
In the last game, they missed
I
The
know they
starting
had
right back, the starting
I
centre
watched, I
back, the
watched it.
starting set left back.
I did watch it, but they also had their record signing or
Pogba
defensive
played.
signing playing, and he was a shower of shit.
Right. Before we get on
Yeah.
to another argument about how terrible Man United are, should we try and get back on track?
We
Maybe.
can talk about Harry Maguire if you want. He was trending. A lot of Leicester fans were taking great pleasure from seeing the demise of Man U after he left in the summer.
I'm afraid to say I was one of them. I mean, I'm not happy to see them struggling. I just think, he left for what he said was the opportunity to play for a massive club, and currently they're doing terribly. So I think it's the little things, isn't it?
At what point do you think he would begin to consider it a regret?
If it's still like this around December time, I think he'd start to feel that way. Wouldn't you? I mean, because you were bringing up the odds for top 4 finishes earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They are still shorter odds than we are. Is that right?
Oh no, it changed this week. Leicester are now, to win the league completely. Let's start looking at those odds. Leicester are 6th favourites to win the league, and Man U are 7th. So, and quite a big difference in the odds. So if you're a betting person, you understand this. If not, I apologise. But Leicester are 250 to 1 to win the league. Man U are 750 to 1. So it's quite a significant difference there. So there are a lot more people. It's not just Leicester City fans anymore thinking that a top 6 could be on the cards should we perform like this all season.
Obviously, bookies' odds are partly directed by betting, but it's also
market driven
by the traders as well, who can clearly see that Ollie is at the wheel. In fact, heading right.
Thoughts that the other day, humorous.
That one really did do the rounds hard. So, just in summary, then we've got 9 points from our last 3 games, apparently, which would be lovely. And against Arsenal and Brighton and Hove Albion, do you want to do that as a package deal, Chris?
Arsenal at home.
Arsenal is at home. Brighton is away.
Turn them over, -2 handicap, and Brighton probably do them in as well. So yeah, we're looking at 15 points and probably third in the league.
4 points for me. Yeah, our aggregate score against after the Arsenal game, we will have played the 4 of the top 6 that could realistically dropped out then, wouldn't we? So Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs and Man U. And at the minute, from playing Chelsea, Spurs and Man U, won 1, drew 1, lost 1, and scored as many as we conceded. So we're pretty much on a level with those teams. So hence why I think we will draw against Arsenal.
I mean, we've
conceded a lot of goals though. Sloppy defence.
We've done really well against the big side so far. Man United result aside, performance-wise, we've been good. But do you think these next 5 games are perhaps the bigger test of where we're at as a club, having to play teams that we would now consider to be teams that we should be beating?
Absolutely. Like, I think players always want to perform and do their best, etc. But I can only imagine what it's like being a professional, but I can predict it's a lot easier to get up for a game against Man U or Liverpool or Chelsea or whoever when millions of people are watching around the world. You got all the TV cameras. You're against some of the biggest name, best players in the world, against the best managers. So you're going to step up. But then, the next game might be home against Burnley or away to Southampton. They're the games that you need to prove, really, how good you are. And they're the games we need 3 points if we really want to get into Europe. So it's one thing getting decent results against the teams around us, but if we don't back that up by producing against some of the lesser teams, then it's an opportunity missed, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that we should be targeting 10 points as a minimum. And I think if we do that, we really are standing ourselves in good stead, and we'll have a lot of momentum going into an extremely tricky Christmas, December. But we've got a really, really tough run. But I mean, I just think this league is proving impossible to predict. I mean, there's shock results left, right, and centre. So, I mean, are we ever going to have as good an opportunity to crack the top four as this?
That's what I think. I've touched upon previously. Like in terms of if we qualify for Europe in the top 6, I don't think we're going to be then looking to crack the top 4 next year because of fixture demands. So I think that's what I'm saying in terms of going for silverware this year, etc. We've got the least amount of games we could potentially have for a few seasons now. So yeah, let's focus on a cup. Let's focus on top 4, and then next season, I think we'd settle for remaining in that European top 7, and obviously playing hopefully Champions League football once again.
That is it. Actually, I would like to ask you guys very, very quickly a question that I was asked during the week. Would you rather? I mean, I know we touched on it the other day, but I don't know if things have changed. Now we've got a more realistic chance of finishing in the top 4. So just a quick answer rather than going into it in too much detail. Would you rather Leicester top 4 finish, guaranteed, or winning the FA Cup, Chris?
How can I do a quick answer? If I now go back on my word...
Hypocrite warning.
Let me have a quick think, because this wasn't in the agenda.
I'll do it quick. Top 4, because I want Champions League football is the pinnacle, and
top 4 doesn't necessarily guarantee Champions League football, does it?
Wow. So, doesn't guarantee group stage Champions League football.
Well, I mean, it's one of those shit questions, isn't it? It's one or the other. Like
language really has gone down.
I'm obviously going to say top 4, but that's because I've only got 2 choices. That's not an ideal for me. But
it's only because I was asked it, and I found it as.
I've got a curveball question then.
Well then,
just to add to this, and you can answer this as well, Jamie. Bear in mind the fixture congestion as well. What if we were offered, Christian?
Yeah.
Winning the FA Cup, which I know you want your mitts on.
Not even the FA Cup, take the League Cup, any silver.
No, okay, League Cup, and finishing 7th. So then you've got them fixtures early next season, or finishing 3rd and going straight into the Champions League.
Yeah, but I get what you're trying to ask, but if we won the League Cup, I don't think we'd do the early qualifying or something like that, depending on where.
Ruining it. Let's pretend you did.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're basically saying, would I win?
I'd take.
Basically, giving me. Obviously, I want Champions League football. That you need, I need 3 options. But yes, basically, obviously, want to qualify for the Champions League. But what I'm saying is, it is possible for us to lift some silverware and also have Champions League. But if given a 50-50, then yeah, you want Champions League football, don't you?
I mean, it would also, winning the FA Cup would also mean that we would be in an extremely select group of teams that have won every domestic trophy.
I didn't actually think of that, to be fair.
Robbie Savage was impressed with that.
Ooh, someone listened in. Very nice. But yeah, at least one person. But
just to summarise, I do think we can do both. So that's why I'm not a fan of these 50-50 questions.
Let's do the treble, lads.
Yeah.
You joke about it, but that's the thing. The League Cup is wrapped up by mid-February. By then, we're probably only 2 rounds into the FA Cup. Again, obviously,
Chris, we're not going to win the treble.
We're not. No, I mean, not in a treble, but a domestic.
A double. League and Cup.
I really enjoyed that. I'm really sorry. Right, I think we'll leave it there, shall we? That was it. That was another good one. So, I mean, we've got a couple of weeks until we're back. We've got in the international break that we all love so much. Leicester have got 15 players playing in it, so there is a little bit of interest. Hopefully, Maddison actually gets on the pitch this time, because we all know that he should.
Honestly, I don't care if he does get on the pitch, to be honest. Rather he didn't play, to be fair, because at least that way he's fresh for Leicester.
True, there is a silver lining to that one. So hopefully, if you've again sat through us yabbering at each other, thank you very much. We always appreciate it. Feedback welcome again. But hopefully you can join us for the next episode, where we're sat here discussing how we've put Burnley to the sword. So hope to see.
I've got one more thing.
No, I finished it. It's done.
I'm booking in. I'm booking in. But last one. What are the England scores going to be?
I don't even know they're playing, to be fair.
Away to Czech Republic, away to Bulgaria.
2-1 and 3-1. Easy.
2-1, 3-0.
There we go. Done. Right. Now you can say bye.
Ed, you've got to close it off now. Go on.
You're going to say like 6-0, 6-0 or something, are you?
At least.
Right, go on, Ed. You can do the closing statement.
Okay. Well, thank you for those who've joined us for the whole of this podcast. As always, it's been a great pleasure having you with us, and we've enjoyed the chat. We'll see you.
Just repeating Jamie.
Well, yeah, but making it sound a bit better. Yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye.
This is why I do it. Bye.
See ya.